Okay, welcome everyone. This is a little bit different for us because today is the 17th of October, which is a Tuesday. So we've been doing Zoom calls for over 3 years now, doing Mondays due to COVID not allowing us to go to JB. So yesterday we actually had our first tie-in at JB. So we are back on Mondays at JB. So we are moving our Zoom calls to Tuesdays. So here we are for the first one. We are a little bit light on attendance, but I kind of thought that might happen while people were, for over 3 years, used to Mondays. So on the next email, I'll get a bunch of people going, oh yeah, we forgot. So what we'll be doing, I know John said he right from Omaha wants to show us something. We got Carl will be tying the Muda Puda, which is kind of a foam beetle pattern. So I know Lee will be enjoying that one. Carl's got it up there. And then after Carl and John are done, we'll talk a little bit about what happened at JB and thoughts going forward. So Carl, if you are ready, I'm going to spotlight you and you can start tying.
All right. Okay. Well, thanks. I think I did this fly before with you guys. It's from Tim Camisa's book, and you can see that on there. But I have to change cameras so I can show you that as that. Let's see. Bear with me just a second. All right. So this is the Muda Puda. And this fly was actually given credit to Curtis Fry with Fly Fish Food. I don't know if you guys ever watch or do any podcasts, but they've got some hilarious podcasts, and they also do it on YouTube as well. But it's flyfishfood.com, and these guys have really developed a interesting way to build their fly fishing business. They've taken it to where they got really smart. They would get they do demonstrations on their flies, and then there was a link to where you could just go to the website and order all the materials in one fell swoop that you needed for that fly. People would order it, and they'd ship it out, and then all of a sudden they had returning business to learn to do flies. So, but this is out of Tim Camisa's book, and I did. I actually got a chance to really fish this fly back in early September or late August, I guess it was. We went to down to visit some friends in Cape Girardeau, and their family has some farm ground that is all in forest now that they used to farm, and they put it all up in trees, and they've got 4 or 5 ponds on there that they had stocked with bass, and it's got crappie and bluegill in there. And so anyway, this is the first time I actually ever got to fish this fly because I thought it would be good for that. I was almost fished it the other day, but it wasn't quite the same thing that was working. But you could catch trout with this, you could catch bluegill, crappie, and bass, and I can speak for experience that it does work. And I was telling Mick Sunday when we were out at Lane Springs, I said I tied a gurgler, and it was when we had a little boat we were out on in this pond, and I thought, well, I'm going to put this gurgler on. And so I looked at my line, and I didn't do a good enough job preparing to go out on the water. And so I looked at my line, I said, shoot, I think I got 6X on this line. So I'm like, I need to change it out. Well, the bass were starting to jump and hit everything. So I got in a rush and put a non-slip loop knot on a size 6X tippet with this big gurgler, and freaking nailed it and snapped my tippet off before I could even do anything. But the next fly I went to was this, and we caught about 20 bass that day, and I think I caught 8 or 9 just on this fly alone. So I'm curious to see what it would do at at other places. And so I had to remember how to kind of tie it. So I was kind of one of those flies that like, if I don't sit down and just tie after tie, I have to go refresh myself on how to do it. But it's a fun little fly. Really, it involves dubbing techniques, using some hair stacking techniques. It uses some foam body, and you're using some rubber legs to kind of give it a little bit of activity. It floats like the dickens, and it's designed with the hook where it actually sinks in the water, and so when they hit it, you get them. And it's a killer fly for that, and be fun to fish it on the trout as well. But anyway, so materials. First off, we're going to start off with on the hook here. I'm using a Kona size 10. I'm using a bigger hook here, just to be able to see it better. But it's a pretty good sized fly too. So if you're catching, you could use it for smallmouth too. And it doesn't really imitate any certain type of bug. It's more of a silhouette pattern. It kind of looks like, hey, I'm a bug, come eat me, kind of thing. It's it does have two dubbing areas where we dub a pink hotspot or red hotspot, and then do a body with a different color. And then on this particular one, I tried something that I watched on YouTube here, where they took some poly and made underneath the wing and did an underneath poly wing. It's a little bit of an overkill. Using some 2mm foam, and you could use any kind of hair you wanted. You could use some deer hair, you could use elk hair, you can use moose hair, kind of like a caddis type pattern. And then one of the things that's kind of I don't know if it's a buzz or what you want to call it, but something with some high visibility. High vis is what a lot of the guys that are really into it, that do these videos, call them. Some high visibility, some like, I'm using some flame orange egg yarn. You could use, any kind of color yarn you wanted to, that would contrast in the water. Because when we were fishing, it was pretty dark when we got there, in the cloudy that particular day. And, it really helped having that little bit of yarn on the top, because you could really, really, really see it pretty easy. And you could use any color legs you wanted to. You could use white, green, whatever. So pretty much, the sky's the limit on what you want to do with this type of pattern. Some might call it a tractor pattern. I guess all patterns are sort of an attractor, because they never really resemble the bugs exact. So that's just kind of how I look at it. For the dubbing on the pink, I'm going to be using some sow bug pink here. And then I pulled out several different ice dubbings. I found some ice dubbing at Hardgrove's one time, and I just started grabbing everything I could find off the wall there. And I got green and purple and orange, and you could use any kind of color you wanted to make it up with. I don't know that it matters much. It's just kind of a fun, easy, cool, wet pattern dry fly that floats. And so anyway, with that, we'll get started. Go ahead and we'll get our hook attached on here. It's basically like a scud hook pattern. I'm going to be using just some simple 8/0, 6/0. I'm going to use 6/0 black thread. Go ahead and get it started here. See if I don't mess up the camera by bumping it here. Go ahead and get a few wraps on here. And you don't have to make touching wraps. You want to get it started. We are going to use just some French tinsel on it for the ribbing. I'm going to pull off 3 or 4 inches. I think I've actually had this spool for about 20 years. Got double-sided, and it's got a little bit of an antique color to the plastic, so it's been around a little while. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap. You don't have to do touching wraps, just enough to kind of get it wrapped down. We're going to wrap towards the bend of the hook here, just like you would on any other fly pattern. Let me wrap up here just a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and get my this tinsel is silver and gold. To me, it doesn't matter what you use. I'm going to use my thumb and forefinger, get it started and get it on, and just wrap it down. All right, and then we'll take some pink dubbing. You could use orange or whatever bright color thing to have some sort of a hot spot on it. Those are kind of hot spots, high vis, you know, all these kind of things that people like to add to the flies as far as, you know, color or whatever. So I'm going to move the camera back just a little bit. Is that still in focus? I can't see.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
All right. So just get just some sort of a hot spot on here, and then just tie that in. Then I'm going to take, anybody got a preference of what color they like to see? I got olive ice dub. We got UV black ice dub. Anybody have a preference what they'd like to see on it?
UV
Black.
black. Yep.
Hey, I guess I'll use UV black. How does that sound?
That way, if you lose it, I could use my flashlight to find it.
Yeah.
So this is some pretty, this stuff's pretty long here. So on this, but this ice dub is a little, it could be a little tricky to get it going sometimes because it's so long. And it's not a fine ice dub. Kind of got it for my for some of the saltwater patterns that I got into doing, and I just kind of put it away a little bit. Kind of like that purple haze color. Could almost call it a Prince. Ah, purple haze.
Purple haze. Purple rain.
Oh, is it purple
Right.
rain?
Thought
No.
you were going for
Jimi
Jimi
Hendrix is
Hendrix.
purple
Jimi
haze.
Hendrix.
Mhm.
Oh, that's right. Jimi Hendrix. Sorry.
Purple haze, purple rain, they all look alike.
And there is a Jimi Hendrix glow ball. It's pink, purple, and trying to think the other color. Pink, purple, and
What?
orange. One of those egg patterns, a glow ball. And it's
Oh.
just they use different colors with it. And so I know it's got purple in there, so they call it the purple haze. Jimi Hendrix.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of.
Makes you wonder how much more could he have been had he lived.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
All right. So now next thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna just wrap the tinsel around here. Just give it some sort of a ribbing effect. Go ahead and tie that, wrap a couple times, and I'm gonna pull it back and tie it in so it'll stay. All right, so I mean, you could even fish this as it was if you wanted to. It worked, but all right. So I'm going to use some moose hair for the tail on this one. The one I did here, I used some elk hair, but and some poly yarn. But that poly yarn idea is pretty cool. But if we want to do another one, I can do that too. But just for ease of demonstration, I'll do this. So I want to get enough hair back here to just kind of measure it. Moose hair is kind of funky to work with on this kind of material. Um, it's pretty cool. It's pretty stiff um, to work with. So I'm gonna go ahead and snip that off, and then just like any hair, you want to make sure you want to clean off the under fur. If you have an old plastic comb, you can do that. Other thing you can do is do your fingers, fan it out, pull it up, get the loose hairs out. And then you got some really long ones here. The thing with moose, I've discovered with moose, is you kind of want to grab every piece you got with it. And then you put it in your stacker, tap it on there, helps it get it lined out. You want to hold it at about I don't know, not quite 45 degrees, but enough to hold it out to where you can have it hold out even like that. If you hold it too steep, it falls down if in the bottom as you pull it up. So it's just a little bit of a practice thing to use. And if you got some really extra long ones, you can pull those out. So we have it. We have a nice even stack there, flare. I'm going to pinch it with my thumb and forefinger right there, and I'm going to hold it up. And I want to go up to the back of the bend of the hook with this. I'm going to just go ahead and get 2 loose wraps, pull it down, and I'm going right over the top one. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just pull this up. I'm going to just kind of pull these up and wrap up into this a little bit. And then I'm going to wrap back around through it to kind of help hold it and secure it, because this stuff will fan on you like mad. So go ahead and hold that up there. And get some good tight wraps on it and hold it up. I'm gonna go ahead and cut the ends off here. And I'm gonna trim all this back here. Sort of kind of what you would do for a head on a, you know, like a caddis fly, but we just trim it all back here because we don't need it, because we want to basically get it back up in here, because what we're going to do is we're going to put some foam over the top of this thing. I'm going to go ahead and just wrap this thing in, kind of clean it up a little bit. Now, what you could do is, if you want to, you can take, that sucker flared out on me pretty good. You can take some Sally Hansen's or something like that if you want to get it, glue it on there a little bit more. And I think I'm going to on this particular one. This sucker keeps working around on me. So I'm gonna take a little, you could use some varnish or UV if you wanted to, but just a little bit on the top there. All right, so now for the foam. So what we want to do is we want to try to get, let me get a couple of these fly right here as I got under.
Looks like a Don King fly.
Don King, I hadn't heard that name. And
Yeah.
With the way the hair is sticking out in the back.
All right. So what we want to do is we want to get a piece of foam, and what you want to do is the general rule of thumb that's in the book or what I've read is you want to get it to about the width of the gape of the hook. Okay. And that seems to be a pretty good measure. So in other words, if you had a smaller hook, you'd want a little bit more narrower. If you had a bigger hook, you'd want to go a little bit bigger. But that seems to be a good general rule of thumb.
I did
So
not know that.
it seems to do with the flyability. Now there's open and closed cell foam. I don't know what I have. Tim Camisa talks about it in his book, and the difference between the two. I just know the foam that I bought at Hobby Lobby, and I know it works. So anyway, so what we're going to do is we want to kind of measure it back here. So if you see the pattern here, you can see that there's a bottom underneath it right here. And what we're going to do is we're going to be putting this, we're going to measure it here. We want enough to cover up the bottom here, and we're going to mark it. Just push up against the head and create a little dent on your foam. That way you make sure you get enough material to cover up the bottom of it. And I'm just going to take my bodkin and I'm just going to make like a little hole right there. And that's going to be the bottom part of my fly. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to go over the top of it here, and I'm going to push it over the hook eye. Just kind of squeeze it on there. Push it back with your thumb and forefinger enough to get it over the top of the head. And, I crowded this one just a little bit, and that's just a little bit too long. I'm going to just trim off just a wee bit off of this. Now, here comes the fun, tricky part. We want to measure the length of this where we want the top of these foam wings to be distance with this part here. And I got a really long tail on this particular one, or long wing. So I'm going to go back a little bit further. I'm going to just give it a little snip up here. And before I even go any further, I'm going to take it off and I'm going to cut a little wing indentation on it. Kind of straighten it out a little so the fish think it looks better.
Yeah, they're gonna be holding up scorecards,
Yeah. And I'm going to cut a little bit of a triangle. Now, by doing this first, makes your life a lot easier when you're doing the rest of it, because then you don't have to worry about cutting your hair or anything else that you've done with it. So you can go over the top of it here, and you see where my thread is. I've got it wrapped back up in here. Let me wind that sucker down a little bit.
Carl,
Yeah.
would you take and push the material away from the eye at this point, or not?
Yeah. You want to leave, I crowded this a little bit too much, Terry. Okay. And so, but you could go back a little bit, go back further with it to hold it down if you wanted to. Yeah, you could do that.
I mean, right now, is it so tight that you can't push all the material around the head away from the head?
Yeah, it's too tight for right now to do that.
Oh, okay. You must tie tighter than I do.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to push this around on the foam here. And so this gets a little tricky because it's hard to see, but I'm taking my thumb and forefinger, and you want to be able to hold it back here, but you want to catch the thread underneath and pull it around. And you want to get 2 wraps before you even pull anything down tight. And then you just pull it down a little bit tighter. And there you go. You've created a little bit of a head on this thing. And So you have like a floating head here. You got some wings. You got a back wing on this thing. And, you know, we're almost done. Now, the next thing is I'm going to put some legs on. And I'm going to take one string, and this is 4 inches long. And it's probably a little longer than I need to, but you know, yeah, we waste a lot. I waste a lot sometimes, but I like my fingers, and I like to be able to do stuff what I want to do. So if things are longer and bigger, it makes it easier to handle. I think. So anyway, so I'm going to go off to your side here, and I'm going to hold the rubber leg on it. And I'm going to take it about halfway, hold about half that rubber, and just get 1, 2 turns on it for right now. And then I'm going to take this rubber and I'm going to go around the front of the fly. And I'm going to go to the other side here. And I'm going to go with my thumb and forefinger on the other side, the side towards me. I'm going to hold it down. I'm going to take the thread and I'm going to go around twice. Okay. So I've created a little bit of a loop here, but you're going to see that that's a lot easier to do that. Get a couple more wraps down there because we're still going to put some poly yarn or some kind of a high visible indicator on it. And if this is all together like this, when you wet finish it, it doesn't get in the middle of everything you're trying to do. So I'm going to trim the legs last. So I'm just going to take some hot spot yarn, just less than a pencil length here. And I'm going to go ahead and wrap it on here, pull it down. And then I'm going to even it up just a little bit for right now so I can whip finish. And so now I'm going to take my whip finishing tool. And I'm going to go up across. And you can just go right in the middle of your legs and your yarn right there. Pull it back. And I'll do another one on here. Pull it tight. Trim it. Pull my yarn up here. Pull it straight and give it a nice little haircut. Gets it all nice and poofy. Pull up in the center, cut my legs. And you can move that around a little bit. Hold the legs in the back even. Trim those. And then I'm going to go ahead and just trim a little bit more off on the front.
Hey, Carl,
Yeah.
I think you put an LED on the top of that so you could fish at night too.
You could see this thing a mile away, Terry. And then to finish,
I agree.
I'm just going to put a little bit of UV resin down on the bottom. Just to hold it in there. Before I do that, though, I got a little bit.
Is this thing trout teeth proof?
Is it what?
Trout teeth proof.
Oh yeah.
Say that fast 3 times.
Truck teeth proof.
I had a hard time just saying it to one.
So there's your Mutaputa. It's
Nice.
Looks good.
Yeah, that looks good.
What did you call it, Carl?
Mutaputa.
Mutaputa. Okay.
Yeah, you can look it up on YouTube.
Okay.
I've heard that name before.
It is
I think you said it once, man.
Moodhpoodh. Muda Puda. And yeah, Moodhpoodh.
What book is that?
I'm using the Kona Klinghammer style.
No, what book is that?
Oh, book. It's Fly Tying Patterns by Tim Camisa.
Okay.
And if you order it, when I ordered this, I actually got he autographed it. It says, "Tie better flies, catch more fish."
Hmm.
But he's really taken a different spin on fly tying, because he likes to tie flies that catch fish. That was his whole concept. So he's kind of gotten away from a lot of there's a podcast with him that Tom Rosenbauer did, and that's how I picked up on the book on the Orvis Fly Fishing Podcast. If you listen to podcasts, you could go to the Orvis one and maybe do a search for Tim Camisa. He's got a lot of good, cool videos on YouTube. Great. He's an educator, and he just loves to fly fish and tie, and he's become very well known just because of his passion for fly fishing. So anyway,
Very nice.
Mhm.
Nice, Carl.
but it's a fun fish. It's a fun fly to fish. So
Yeah.
Say that fast 3 times.
fun fly to fish. Seashores by the seashore.
Yep. I'm not trying.
Yeah.
Neither am I.
Well, what else do you want me to tie?
Or I know John wanted to discuss something. John,
Oh,
you have something?
Go ahead.
Yeah, can you hear me?
We could hear you.
Okay, I was having problems earlier. Yeah, let me just do a quick switch here on the camera. Okay.
Your spotlight.
This was introduced to me by Al Beatty last week. As you know, I've been doing one-handed fly tying demonstrations around the city here, and I've been using the evergreen hand. And Al said, you don't have to use that. And when he was down at Branson, he ran into this little device right here. Now, this is a steel box, and inside it, you got these guys. And what these are, and these are actually designed for building model airplanes and model things, plastic models with, because they're magnetic. And you put your parts in there and you hold them and you can paint them. Now there's two things that I found that you could use these for. Number one, if you're out at a show doing demonstrations, this is a great way to demonstrate the flies that you tie. You just put them on here, and it comes with 11 or 12 of them, and you just put them in here, put them in the vise, and now you got a nice display. And you can turn these things. You can put one out here and one over here, and then turn the rest of them like that. So they're just kind of cool. And what I plan on working on them to do is, let me see if I can get my vise over here real quick. Okay, let me move that over. There we go. There. And you can see I can put this right up to the vise, and I can adjust it a little bit. So now I've got a way to hold materials on my vise when I'm doing one-handed. So this gives me my second hand. And because I can bend it and hold it, I can pretty much position things any place I want. And if I lower my vise enough, if I can get it to come down, there we go. See, I can lower that vise so that I've got everything right at the same level.
Are you going to be able to open the jaws of that device and on that thing, yeah. And
Yeah.
put something in it,
I'll show you.
or you're gonna have to do it with your teeth.
There's a piece of marabou, okay? Marabou feather.
Oh, okay.
I come down, grab it. There you go.
Oh,
Bend it over. I don't have a hook in here now, but you can see,
yeah.
let me turn this around the right way. There we go. I got a hook in here now. I just put this on top of the hook, and now I can just tie it in.
Nice.
So, yeah, the evergreen hand works well. But, pardon me, I just dropped it. The thing I'm finding is that you can get one from, let me switch cameras again here. Each program is authorized one evergreen hand. The problem with that is, you know, like a lot of us, we want to make sure that, or get some vices out to our guys that are really into tying flies. So they've got one at home they can tie at home with. Well, if you only have one evergreen hand and you got 2 or 3 guys that are amputees, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
You know, so I sent out an email today to Mike Swanson to see if they have an answer to that. But in the interim, I'm going to work on tying one-handed flies without the evergreen hand.
What is
And
that
see-
thing called?
You know, I don't know what it's called. I got it on Amazon Friday night. It's just I can send you the link here when I get a
Okay.
minute. I can go over and grab the link
Yeah.
and send it to you, Terry.
Okay.
Is it cheaper than the evergreen?
Well, the evergreen's free. So
Yeah.
no, nothing's cheaper. But yeah, this thing was $13.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
that's not bad.
Yeah. So yeah. It's I think it's well worth the $13. It's I plan on using it with some of the demonstrations that we do. I've got a craft show I've got to go to here in a couple of weeks, and I'm going to use it while I'm tying flies to demonstrate to folks what we do and how we do it. So that's it for me.
Very cool.
Very nice.
I was trying to see if I could find it on Amazon, but
Yeah, you
I
send
put it-
that link out to everybody?
Yeah, I'll put it in the chat. Let me just give me about. I got to bring my internet up, but give me just give me a few seconds and I'll get it for you.
Okay.
no worries. All right, so while he's doing that, we got about 15 minutes left. So Lee, Terry, and I were at JB last night. So we were tying back at JB. So we're back in business. We had 4 participants come down. I heard there was 14 in the ward, but most of them never heard of us before. So I know the 4 that came down had a blast, and they were going to say to the other 10 guys how they missed out. So I'm expecting more people next Monday. So we were kind of light last Monday, but I think we're going to be on the heavy side next week. And so we had 5 tables, and they said 14 people. So there's a chance that we could have a volunteer and 3 people per table that we had. So that's a good number. I think we'll be doing good from there. And then next week, we'll make sure we put all the tables to one side so Roger could bring out the rods. And if he wants to try to teach casting lessons, or John's got that up there. So while I'm talking, I'm going to spotlight him again. So there you go. And it's 1377. So for JB, I expect we'll have more people coming. So if you are planning on showing up as a volunteer or even a participant that wants to help other people at JB practice an easy fly, something like a San Juan or something like that, or a midge, something easy, because these participants have never done anything like this before. So try to pick an easy one for their first one. while we were there, we were trying to figure out how to go forward on, do we make a bunch of kits and then just have them pre-ready that if somebody wanted to grab a kit to do woolly boogers, they could do that, or they could look through, and if we had foam beetles, they could grab that. Or do we have each volunteer that's going, it's just you pick the fly you want. Maybe you're good at it. I know Terry likes his Bennett blue, and you just make sure you know how to do that, and then we'll rotate the people around. So I'm still trying to figure that out. Not sure what to do yet, but we'll probably talk more on Monday afterward to see what we need to do. I still have, I got to see if Ben could make more copies of these, but this fly tying A to Z, they have some easy fly patterns in there, like the Captain and what else is there? The Black Widow and the McDream Fly and the Easy Pheasant Tail Nymph. All four of those basically use the same hook with a bead, and definitely want to try to make sure we're doing those, because to have the materials for fly patterns that usually, if they're using the same hook and bead, that makes it a little bit easier where we don't have to have 8 different types of hooks. But again, if we want to do something else, we can. I'm just trying to make this easy for all of us to do. So think about it. If you have any ideas, reach out to me, or wait until Monday until we talk again. But it was a good first time back. I really enjoyed it. It was, what I remember of Project Clean Waters when I first started, where I actually enjoyed watching them, the new participants learn, and how they were just excited to do it. And they were very thankful and humble for us being there. And so that was, again, a good feeling, because that's what I remember when I first started. So happy to do that, and already looking forward to next Monday for sure. So you guys could make it great. If not, no worries. The other thing I need to talk about, I was hoping for more people, because this Saturday we're meeting at American Legion, and we were talking about meeting up at Uncle Bill's beforehand at like 10 for breakfast. And Frank was asking if he could have a head count. So if you're going to show up to Uncle Bill's beforehand, please let me know so we could get a head count, because, I might get 4 people saying that they would go. But I got Walt calling right now. He'll have to wait. But I need to find out.
Oh God.
Poor Walt. He's Walt knows we're in the middle of our call right now. So
Shame on you, Mick.
yeah, that's my Walt. So we'll let me know so we have enough to kind of hold some tables. So I'd hate to say we have 4 and then 8 people show up and we're trying to find an extra table. So but yeah, that's this Saturday. So it should be a good time. So if you have any questions on that, let me know. Other stuff coming up pretty soon is urban fishing, trout fishing, and that's going to be here in no time, 2 weeks, November. And they'll start stocking lakes that we like going to, like Bush Wildlife or Jefferson Lake at Forest Park. So we'll be hitting those. And then the 10th of November starts catch and release at the parks. Those are always good times if you could handle the cold, because no one's there. So you pretty much have the run of the place to yourself. And the fish aren't getting fed as much, so they're a little bit more easier to catch. So I think that's about it going on again this Saturday. If I know, Scott, you said you wanted to do Christmas bugs, so I will make sure I have all the material to do Christmas bugs. If anyone still has rods to finish, you could bring those as well, or bring any material. But if there's a pattern you want to try and would like me to get some materials, let me know.
Hey, Mick,
Yes.
as I said, I've got to do a craft show here in about 6 weeks. And one of the things that I've been requested to do is do Christmas flies inside of the ornament balls.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
know what I'm
those are
saying?
cool.
And I would, I've tied the candy cane type of fly before, and that's not a problem. But I'm really interested in seeing some of your guys' ideas on Christmas bugs.
Okay, yeah, this is one that Jim Saraceno came up with, and it's got like shiny green chenille, some rubber legs that are red, so it kind of looks like a little Christmas tree pattern, and bluegill can't stay off them. So it's a good fun tie to fly. So for
Well,
sure,
but what I'm thinking is if you guys wouldn't mind doing 1 week between now and let's say the fourth, the first or second week in November, a show on tying your best Christmas flies.
that would be cool. And then I do have the Christmas bug recipe on, I think, a Word doc. So I'll send that to you right after this meeting,
Great, thanks, Mick.
so you guys could get started on that. And I'll make sure I have that with me on Saturday and all the materials. So anything else? I know we got 5 minutes left.
Would you ever be able to hold a class on hooks?
Hooks, we could do that. And I know what's his name? Frank had asked to do threads too. So
Okay.
for sure we could do hooks. And that'd be kind of easy because I would use, and I even have their business card right here, the Wholesale Fly Company, and we could kind of go over some of the hooks that they have that I really like.
Right.
They're good hooks. You get 100 of them for $7. You really can't beat that deal at all.
And when to use them?
Yeah, when to use them. You know, there's certain patterns like on the Huda Puda that Carl did today. He used a scud hook. That's what I like doing my foam beetles because it has a big wide hook gap. So you could put legs and hackle, and it's that hook gap is still holding it where, you know, that other materials won't act as like a weed guard and you might miss a strike on a fish.
That
And
brings up a good point, Mick. I'm often, back in the day when I started tying, way back, we only had two kinds of flies that we tied, wet flies and dry flies. And you had different hooks for both flies. Do they still do that? Or now do they have, I know there's 1,000 different fly hook types, but do they still have wet type hooks and dry type hooks?
they do. And I know it's one of them that I know for the dry, it's actually, they kind of call fine wire. So it's a little bit thinner gauge hook. That way you're not weighting it down. And then there are some that I kind of use, I think it's like a nymph hook that looks like a scud hook that I use for my foam beetles for the Muda Puda that have a big hook gap, but it's not a very heavy hook. And then they also have a scud hook, which is like super strong, heavy. I think you could probably hang me off it and it's not going to bend. So,
but do they have any, have you seen any kind of a standard for what these different, the weights of these things and the diameter of these things? You know, like it seems like every place you go, there's this scud hook and nymph hook, and they're all different size wire.
yes, they are. And I've noticed even,
no idea what you guys are talking about.
Yeah, you could get a size. I bought a size 18 hook, and I'm pretty sure it was from Wholesale Fly Company. It was like a I forgot what model it was, and it was a size 18, but it was basically the same size as their 60-degree offset for their jig hook is a size 16. I mean, I looked at them and one said it was a 18 and the other one said 16. And I'm like, these are about the same size, you know, and
Which brings up my next point. What difference does it make? You know,
Probably
I mean,
not
for
much.
dry flies, you want the lightest hook you can have, but for wet flies, you can always add lead or bead heads or what have you to weight them down. So
Exactly.
it seems to me from a practical perspective, you'd better off buying dry fly hooks and then just altering them to make them work the way you want them to.
Exactly. And that absolutely, I would agree with that. That's
I think one of the things that I've, I'm not as old as John, but I remember when I started.
No,
I-
nobody's as old as John.
That's right. My God, you know, I've been here since the beginning of time.
when when I was first learning to fly fish, that was the only thing I knew of that existed was dry flies and wet flies. And the wet flies always mimicked some sort of a, a nymph type or soft hackle pattern, what we would call today. And the dry flies were, a humpy caddis, mayflies, mosquitoes. Those are the things that, that I all I knew about. And then, we moved to Missouri in the early 90s, and they're like, well, yeah, you got to use nymphs. And I said, oh, you mean like a wet fly? And they go, no, it's a nymph. It's like, well, I'm thinking, well, how does it sounds kind of like the same thing. And in a sense, it kind of really is,
yeah,
so, and now we've got Euro nymphing with jig hooks, that's kind of the new thing, but one of the trends that I've noticed is, the hooks today have gone more barbless.
yep,
More, even if you watch some of the, like Davey McPhail, is it McHale or McPhail on YouTube? He's even gotten to where his dry
McPhail,
fly,
yeah, Davey McPhail.
even some of his dry fly patterns, he's using, scud type hooks, for his dry fly patterns,
yep.
Hmm.
to give it that arch or that curvature, look to the bug. It's not just a.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know that there's any right or wrong answer. I think you got to figure out kind of what you're trying to imitate and then figure out what hook you need from there. I mean, I think anybody starting out needs to get some dry fly hooks
Yeah.
and I got into where I like these curved back nymph hooks a lot. It makes it more of a, a more of a lifelike thing. But now you look at, even look at Tim Camisa's book. Every hook he's got in there that has anything to do with some sort of a nymph is a jig hook.
Yep.
With a slotted bead. You're fishing it on the bottom with the hook up.
But Carl and Terry, when we started tying, it was a lot simpler. You went into the fly shop and you bought some size 12 dries or size 12 wets. And you didn't have it. And Lee, I understand where you're coming from. I mean, it's extraordinarily confusing trying to figure out all of these hook things because we've made it more complex for whatever reason. But the bottom line to me is it doesn't make any difference what hook you use as long as you've got a pattern that simulates the bug you're trying to fish. You can tie it on any hook. Yeah, I mean, I've even tied it on bait hooks. So snelled bait hooks. So I mean, it just yeah.
It's always, I was thinking that the hook is what made the fly pattern also. Not just the tying, but the hook made it that pattern. I guess not.
Yeah, Terry's saying, yeah, it does. And I guess, yeah. Terry, what's your input on that?
To be quite honest with you, I think that you can get confused and tied up with different hooks and stuff like that. But if you can tie something that catches fish I go back to the old thing. I saw a guy took a, I think it was a bait hook, tied a cigarette butt on it, and cast it out there and caught fish.
Hmm.
I mean, you know, it didn't look like anything but a cigarette butt. And maybe the fish was looking for nicotine. I don't
Must be.
know.
Yeah, I think to me, the bottom line is pretty simple. If you want to tie a fly to get your bronze, silver, or gold award with FFI, go use the hook that they call out. If you want to tie a fly that you go fishing with, use any damn hook you want that's about the right size and tie whatever fly on it you think will catch a fish and go for it.
Yep.
You know,
Okay.
I mean, that's
the fun part of fly tying.
yeah.
You could, there's a recipe, but you know, you could change the recipe just like if you're cooking food. You know, you use what you have, and you know, you just kind of make a little substitution. I mean, if you had to have the correct recipe, I mean, you would be thousands of dollars into materials.
Yeah.
So, you know, pick a hook you like and you could work with it.
Which is a great segue for me to introduce Al Beatty's new Fly Tying Fridays series. He's starting this Friday. Actually started last Friday. He's got a new series that we're tying. And what he's doing is, I forget the name of it right now, but he's using substitute materials for all the flies that he ties. He's tying the flies with materials different than the pattern calls for, which is kind of an interesting approach to tying flies. So if anybody's interested, I'll send you the link to Al's channel on Friday nights.
Yes,
I mean,
please do.
I mean, he gets guys from all over the world. Paul Fidelis will be there again from Australia. But yeah, I mean, it's you'll get to see some of the best fly tyers in the world tie up there. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that guy, Paul. Tell him I said hi.
yeah, I will.
We get people from Illinois on our
Yeah.
Zoom.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. And Omaha. I mean,
Omaha.
hey.
Yeah, we open it to everyone. So
Mick, give my love to Margie. Get
Will
out of
do.
here.
Yep. Hi guys, I'm gonna
Yeah, thanks, Mick. All right. Well.
stop this